Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to Deus Ex. You might see we are in fact back here, and there is a reason for that. So I'm going to need to get up on a solid land here. But yes, that is the reason right there. Kind of hard to see at the moment, but yeah, okay. There's an accuracy mod hidden in that pipe. Again. Now unfortunately, I happened to take this footage after I recorded the next area, so I'm not actually going to be keeping that accuracy mod. But I thought it should be good to tell you where it is. Anyway, it's not like I really need it. The only thing that can take accuracy mods at this point is my crossbow.
I've dropped you in an abandoned lot next to the base. There should be an old grate on the wall that you can gain entry through. I've got to get out of here before the sentries get suspicious.
You know, it's kind of interesting. They didn't have to make this chicken wire fence. They didn't have to let you see this much of the surrounding area. But they chose to do it. They wanted to. I just think that's interesting.
You're past the fence. Good. Up ahead are the barracks. You need to gain entry to the base and eventually reach the large building to the north. Keep your eyes open for the ammo storage facility. You need to load up on explosives.
I hardly think I need any more explosives than what I've got, but it is nice that they think about it.
You came in on the chopper? You must be with the DC people. My sister lives down there. She works in the Space Museum. Never seen so many folks from the Beltway. It's like a convention. Us troops, we're pretty anxious to find out what's going on. I guess we'll hear about it on the news and then we can say we were there. Bob Page was here yesterday. I bet what's going on is financial. I think the United States is asking for another loan. That's my theory. We could sure use another check from the Chinese. It was nice chatting. Like the directive said, we've got this place sealed tight. You can count on us. Like the directive said, we've got this place sealed tight. You can count.
Well, he was friendly. That looks interesting, but we're going to take the front door right now.
You must be
Who's asking?
Our buddy Vinny said to expect you. Think you can find out what's going on in there? Go for it.
Is FEMA really running the show?
FEMA and the Chinese? I don't like the smell of it one bit.
Me either.
His key will open the main gate. The guard just inside the main building entrance will let you pass, but don't expect any hospitality from the FEMA people. I don't know how you'll get on board with the main ramp retracted, unless you want to swim. Be careful in there. Standing orders inside the perimeter are shoot on sight. We're supposed to be on red alert. They even told us to watch the crane, so that no one tries to jump the deck. Good luck. FEMA made a big mistake if they think we follow orders blindly. Just because you have a uniform on, it doesn't mean you don't know how to think for yourself. When we find out what the government's doing, we're gonna tell our friend Joe Green at the Midnight Sun.
Well, actually, you might need a news source.
As far as we're concerned, you were never here. I hear they're planning something big for tomorrow. An airlift of some kind. You know that girl Sandra? Vinny has all the luck. Be careful in there. Standing orders inside the perimeter are shoot on sight.
We're at the main gate. Get to the door at the base of the huge crane in the distance. And watch out for the guards and security bots.
I don't know how you'll get on board with the main ramp retracted, unless you want to swim.
Alright, so the thing about this map is that we are at the south end, and we need to get to the north end, but the north end is kind of blocked off. And unlike these trucks, we can't simply break them open with our awesome sword. There's probably a crate or something somewhere around here you can use to jump up here if you don't have super speed, but I have super speed, so I don't have to care. Now, most of the enemies around here are actually going to be United States soldiers. But, considering that they are, you know...
I have begun planning your future objectives. Dow will be sending you to Paris. Make sure he gives you the current residence of his associate, Morgan Everett. I do not have access to that information.
Okay.
Haven't seen you in a week. Where you been?
Workers' camp. Messed up my hand while I was working on the sewer shutoff grate. Damn thing came down and nearly took off my whole arm.
You gonna be alright?
Yes, okay. They told me they were gonna fix it. Of course, they waited until after I got hurt to do it.
I saw a bunch of folks working on that shed out back a few days ago. Figure they must be tinkering with the control valve, sure enough.
What's up with this place anyway? On the way in, some goon with a gun frisked me from head to toe. Told me to watch my step.
FEMA, sure. After they declared martial law, they came down on this place like they owned it. Shut off the sub-pin, threatened to shoot anyone got close.
Yeah, I saw him goose-stepping around back there. Christ, this place is going to hell in a handbasket real fast. Wonder what the union's got to say.
Right now, the union ain't got nothing to say.
Right, so as I was saying, the soldiers... well, they are soldiers. They may not completely understand what's going on here, but they will fire back. And I promised nothing about preserving their lives, so I'm not going to bother in this case. Now, as I was saying before, there are several ways to get to the north end of the docks here. But first, rifle gets to master. Hell yeah, boys. Perfect aim forever. There's also another side benefit to having a rifle mastery and a sniper rifle, but I'll get to that when I get to that. As for right now, I'm looking through this office here without having to spend anything to open that door. Reload mod. Of course. Damn. Let's see, looks like a light switch here. That's good. It's nice not having to spend any bioenergy on a flashlight, but it's also nice to be able to see everything around me. Well, there is a key for that, but I don't have it. And I could hack into that particular computer, but I've got a better idea. Just as soon as I can get around the window here. I may have noticed the green glow earlier. And my bioenergy's out. Alright, wow. May have noticed the green glow earlier, but there is a camera in here. But you can see that there's also a security terminal. So if I can get to that first, everything is just fine. And that opens a gate. That opens one of the storage facilities. And that opens, actually a door right next to me. Let me turn on the light here. Now let's have a look around. Well, it's locked and it's invulnerable. But it's only one pick. Not data cube. Login Walton password Simons. Well, that's original. I've got a whole bunch of desks around here. I got my lockpick back. Nice. Yeah, That's a great part about the doors in that thing. It's all breakable. And this is one of the 3 doors I unlocked using that security terminal. Sometimes it's tricky to get the rollout drawer. I think that's the one with Bob Page on it. Oh, we've seen that already. Now let's see what these normal computers have on them. Let's see. Gray Death. Can't get into the advanced submarine facility. Bots are dangerous, and there's a whole lot of them. And the other computers, you get the exact same stuff. I still haven't found the key for that door. And no key for that door either. So I guess I'll be going back out the window. Luckily I can just push this couch over and make a jump for it, save me just a little bioenergy. But now I'm going back in here, because this is Walton Simons' office. Alright, so they're talking about the wall cloud. That's the ship out there. Herman, looks like Herman's still just on my tail. And they've cleaned up after my little incident in VersaLife. I've gone and killed everybody involved. You know what, I'm gonna get a whole lot of explosives in this in the next couple maps. So why not use them? Oh shit. That's what I get for bouncing it a little too hard, I guess. But yeah, that's the image with Walton Simons' particular AUG set. And just another nano canister that I've got plenty of. That's like the 3rd one of that I've found. And perhaps I shouldn't have opened the ammunition storage door, because now I have to deal with the robots that are inside. Or maybe not. That was one hell of an explosion there. Anybody else? Doesn't look like it. So let's move on. Now, like the other room on this side of the map, this has a window which you can access. And a door which you can't. But hey, who cares? This is what super speed is for. Or finding a crate. But I believe one of Simon's notes in the office building has the code for this. But we don't need it because I also opened the door using the terminal that is also in the office complex. So I can just walk straight out there. And that's gonna take a while. Oh well. P.S. You may notice I am using the recirculator now. I figure, you know, it's immediately next to regeneration. I suppose I could just simply use them at the same time. Also, these are another of those peculiar lasers that doesn't mind getting blocked. That's a good thing too, because this door would open, and one of the big mechs, one of those mechs, would be coming out of it if I had triggered those lasers. It's particularly a problem because those things take 2 gap rockets to explode.
Hear that? Everybody check.
That is a whole lot of damage. Luckily the one in the corner here is still stuck in his little cubicle. So, I am now officially on the near side. Huh. What are you just for standing here? Uh-oh. But yes, I am officially on the near side to the submarine facility. Did that get him? Okay, good. But yeah, I could just end this map right now, but there is so much to explore on this map that I am not going to do so just yet. We've also got this storage facility here, but it's full of toxic vapors, which will take forever to get rid of, and holy crap, that is a lot of robots. I'm going to look for a way around. But yeah, that room with the toxic vapors coming out of it, that has one ballistic armor, and that's it. That is not worth breaking in, exploding all of the damn barrels and all that.
You won't believe this, JC. There was a raid on smugglers. I just saw Gunter get into a copter on the roof and head back to Unatco. I checked the police bands, though, and they're still looking for Smuggler. Looks like he managed to slip away.
I suppose it's a good thing I warned him before I left, then. Otherwise, he would be dead. Doesn't look like there's any sort of setting that sets it to friendly using the terminals here, so I'm just going to shut them off completely. I'm all full up on Sabo. Also, I believe you can use that rafter to get across to the walkway on the other side of the building. Well, now that I look at it again, I think those crossbars actually get in the way. Yes, this is the ammo storage facility, along with the robot storage facility, so it is full of plenty of explosives. I'm all full up on every kind of rockets. But yes, this is why you set robots to standby. Holy crap. They're just both sitting in here next to the lambs you might, want to have. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can use that rafter to get across, but you can use these open roof things that they've got.
Stand where I can see you.
Oh, this is infinite 100%. There's a key for it, but I don't have it again. Luckily, that camera, it does not react to your presence. Also, does not sound like the terminal I used shuts off all of the robots. It's going to be a problem. So instead, let's look at this other giant hangar area here. And oh, hey there, buddy. Oh, hey there, buddy.
My mistake.
Okay.
Interesting. Uh-oh. Camera saw me, but luckily there's another terminal right over here. There's a lot of security here. Go figure. I've opened another door and I've made the warehouse safe to walk around in. So let's see what's in the office here. More of these. And keys. Truck trailers in the parking lot. The security password. Not that I hardly need it anymore. Let's see. Computer here. Same one as before. Tricky. Now what have you got? The code to get into the ASF itself. Damn, 4 picks, that's crazy. One more security terminal. At least we can use the password and shut off more robots. Yeah, none of these options look like they would keep me safe like Robot Standby would. I mean, some of them would make trouble for the, the soldiers walking around, but I'm trouble enough for those soldiers. I don't need anyone else's help. Oh, 2 keys, yeah. I said, this is usually a little tricky, but not this tricky. I don't get it. Anyway, there's only like a pistol in there. I'm not gonna pick it open. And the warehouse commandant or whatever. Looks like his computer is empty. More sabot rounds, but I'm full up on that. Shotgun and even more rockets. Oh,
Stenton.
whoops. Hey there, buddy. Not gonna jump down there. Yeah, one of those keys, no, doesn't open that. I got that key from somewhere at some point, but guess I'm not sure where. Whoops. Oh, that got him. Wait a second. Where are you going? You turned red. Oh, damn it. There's another alarm panel on the other side there. I thought he was going for the one next to the security panel. Well, doesn't really matter. There's hardly anybody to even react to this at this point. Yep. Robots are on standby. Thank goodness. Big ones are some big trouble, let me tell you. You're those guys who were talking before.
Hey, I know my job. You want something else out of me? Talk to the Union.
You supposed to be taking over around here?
Place has turned into a military camp. You're gone 1 week, this is what happens.
Don't mind me saying so. You can't be worse than the other guy. Simons. That's his name.
Look, you do what you have to do, I'll do what I have to do. I'm just saying I don't trust a bunch of guys with riot gear and guns.
I don't want to be getting anyone into trouble, but there's something about the man that just ain't trustworthy.
I ain't done nothing wrong, so just leave me alone, okay?
Like what? Don't know exactly. Had this way of talking, like he'd just as soon wring your neck if he didn't need you for the job.
If you're gonna bust my ass, I'm gonna quit right now.
Strange tattoos, kinda swim around under his skin. I ain't seen nothing like it.
Place has turned into a military camp.
Got work to do, sure enough.
Leave me alone. I'm not sure he sounds like he wants to kill me by saying that.
Hear that? Everybody check weapons. Move. Engaging the enemy.
Whoops. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that on top of everything else, most of the soldiers around here are also carrying lambs. There we go. So what do we got? Napalm. But yeah, it is actually pretty nice. They tell you that you will need explosives for the upcoming mission. And then they provide you dozens of opportunities to get enough explosives so that you aren't stuck in an unwinnable situation. Sewer control valve, that's actually one of the doors I opened in one of the security consoles. So I am not going to worry about opening that. Because if I did, at this point, it would just wind up closing it. But this, over here, this is the entrance. This is the primary way into the submarine base. If I walk any further, I will trip a loading zone. So I'm not going to do that.
Try taking the elevator to the top of that crane. You might be able to get on the roof and enter the building through the air conditioning ducts.
Well, that's another idea, sure. But there is a third way. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go take a look at it now, because I've been, you've been seeing evidence of its existence. But if you want to experience it properly, you have to start outside the base by going through this first tunnel that I looked at. See, if you don't want to mess with anything, you come down here.
These sewers run to the submarine building. You can be sure the military has rigged these passages with detectors and booby traps.
Speaking of booby traps, that's one right down there. Gas grenade. I don't know why it would be down there, though. So also, you've got these trip lasers here. And you can turn them off from that little control down there, and whoops! I was trying to be all smart, you know, take them out from a distance where they can't hit me, but I was apparently just a little too close for that to work. Oh crap. Also kind of sucks when I miss the jump. But yeah, if you're wondering where the hell those spider bots came from, there's just an alcove on the wall there. Oh, more accomplishment bonus. Guess that closed the alcove. You gotta watch out for these gas grenades down here. And then you've also got all of these different exits from this area. This first one just gets you past that first fence, that first barrier that prevents you from moving forward. Forces you to take one of the side routes. This next one here brings you up into the warehouse. Lots of cover down this area. And once you get past that, you've got these other lasers to deal with. And a hole that you can't climb up. But you don't have to deal with the lasers. Not if you don't want to. Instead, you've also got this little side entrance here. And here we go. Now this isn't a directly a way forward, but this hatch here, which is surprisingly invulnerable, this hatch drops you into the water, and through the water you can go forward. Or you can use one of those control panels and turn off the lasers, which are on both sides of this particular crawl space. That last hatch I was just looking at. Well, hang on. Just gotta deal with this the old-fashioned way. That hatch brings you up into the weapons storage facility if you happen to need lambs, even at this point. Not that there's really much need, and man, there's also a ton of those LAWs around too. But anyway, if you get past the lasers, you can use this hatch to get up to the sewer valve controls, because otherwise there would be the giant door blocking my progress. And from down here is the second way that you can get into the submarine base. Now, I'm not going to take that way, and I'm not going to take the main entrance. I'm going to take the skyway. I'm going to take the way that's got a great view. Hear the wind. Also, I'm going to replenish my bioenergy. So, you know, hope you don't mind that little jump cut. But yes, up here we've got sniper rifle and some ammo. Very nice. We've got a button that extends the crane's arm. And then, like I said, you got a great view of the surroundings, along with where the edge of the map is and where the skybox begins. Looks like they also reused some of the Liberty Island view for this map. You gotta be a little careful. You could take some damage if you jump too far all at once. For some reason there's a couple crowbars down here too. But aside from all of that, there's nothing to do except go in.
Good. One of the machines will have a panel you can open. Crawl through the ductwork into the building.
Can do. Now actually this map is a little interesting because it is only this little area here.
This is the main air circulation fan. If you want to slip in this way, you should look for a maintenance hatch or follow the air vents out of this room. But be prepared for dangerous machinery and maintenance bots.
He's not kidding. Aside from the spiders down there, that fan is deadly. You can see that it's got the ladder in the alcove, but it's just easier just to destroy it entirely. Pretty sure the alcove does not protect you completely from being torn to shreds by the fan. But luckily, you can pretty easily just snipe those spider bots from up here. No need to put yourself in any danger. And yeah, what do you know? It's just a safe way down to the base of a ventilation shaft here. There's actually two ways to go from here. That one leads just directly into the next area, into the submarine bay itself. But this one's got this really weird... what the hell would you call this thing? Just a fun house room. It rotates around you. I have no idea what the hell that would even be for. Huh. I guess it's a different map, so it's a different code. I can open a door from here, but... oh well. This also leads into the next area. I have no idea why there's two ways through. It's kind of pointless. But today, we'll be heading to Conspiracy Corner to discuss the man known as the father of modern secret societies, Cecil Rhodes. The facts. Cecil Rhodes was the very model of a 19th century British colonial strongman. Rhodes was born in 1853 to a puritanical vicar in the suburbs of London, and his father's views on sexuality probably explains why he and most of his siblings never married. It's also possible he was gay, but from the evidence it's just as likely he was asexual. Growing up, he was anemic, asthmatic, bad at math, disinterested in sports, and generally shy, with few if any friends. I bring this up because the Rhodes scholarships he set up in his will look for candidates who excel in both academics and sports, demonstrate leadership qualities, and show evidence of a strong moral fiber. So in other words, Rhodes would never have qualified for his own scholarship program. I'd just like you to keep that in mind as I explain what all Rhodes accomplished. Maybe you might ask yourself just how useful it would be to improve the human genome. When he was 17, Cecil Rhodes was shipped to South Africa, or Cape Colony as it was called then, in the hopes that it would improve his health. One of his older brothers ran a cotton farm on the east side of the colony, but unfortunately the climate was wrong and the farm failed. So a year later, Rhodes and his brother moved to the diamond mines of Kimberley, and by 1889 his company, De Beers Mining, owned or controlled every diamond mine in Africa, and most of those beyond. By the time Cecil Rhodes died in 1902, De Beers controlled 90% of the diamond market, and fixed its prices along with their few competitors. And this monopoly persisted until the 1980s. It was only then that the concept of blood diamonds, which pay for African atrocities, began to filter into the minds of consumers, and De Beers was forced to back out of certain markets in order to avoid bad publicity. These days, De Beers controls a mere 40% of the market. Rhodes used his position as a colonial monopolist to obtain permission from the British government to essentially bully, extort, and conquer native kingdoms and other European colonies for the sake of exploiting their resources. This is actually fairly standard conduct for colonial corporations throughout the European colonization period. The French paid Native Americans to nearly exterminate beavers for fur. The Dutch wiped out whole villages to get a monopoly on nutmeg, and Belgium mutilated West Africans for rubber, and that was only after every nation that owned Caribbean colonies paid West African kingdoms to capture and sell each other into the extremely deadly sugarcane slave trade. The list goes on and on. It's going to be depressing enough just going over what Rhodes himself did. Rhodes happened to love the idea of British imperialism, so what he didn't do for his own company, he did for the British Empire. Actually, he did it for local rule by the British Empire. He strongly supported local governors and settlers against the colonial office in London, and he got what he wanted because he was filthy rich and outspent the government to support the colonists. Much like with the United States and the Native Americans, Rhodes gained land and mining concessions from the Africans through a combination of intimidation, misleading treaties, and a series of punitive wars. One particular region was named Rhodesia in his honor by the colonists. If you're unfamiliar with the name, that's because the colony is now two nations, Zimbabwe and Zambia. Neither nation has been doing well since decolonization. Zimbabwe in particular has had such hilariously bad inflation that they stopped issuing currency in 2009, and before that, in 2000, their president, Robert Mugabe, won the very first national lottery. Something tells me that wasn't entirely based on luck. Rhodes had one notable failure, though. In 1885, 3 Tswana kings went over Rhodes's head and managed to convince the British government to administer them separately from Rhodes's Cape Colony and South African Company. In fact, the future nation of Botswana managed to rebuff and mislead prospectors for decades, leaving them a very poor nation until the UK granted them independence in 1964. But then, once they passed a law which declared that all underground resources were property of the democratic government, surprise! Turns out Botswana has a tremendous amount of diamonds. In fact, of every African nation, Botswana is the least corrupt, and they'd be doing pretty well if they weren't also at the center of the AIDS epidemic in Africa. Still, at least their government is doing something about the problem, unlike most of its neighbors. The conspiracy. Cecil Rhodes was neck-deep in the usual suspects. Just as an example, he was a confirmed Freemason, although he didn't consider the organization nearly British or imperialist enough for his tastes. Since his father was a reverend for the Church of England, people used that connection to drop in the usual occult influences. Then there's the fact that De Beers was financed in large part by the Rothschilds. Still, there's no need to speculate. Rhodes made his opinions very clear during his lifetime. Rhodes was extremely racist, and that's even compared to other racists at the time. Still, at least it wasn't a personal thing, and he was more tolerant to other racial groups than a lot of his fellows. Just for instance, the Rhodes Scholarship Program is very specifically racially blind when choosing candidates. He also supported allowing the Dutch-descended Boers in Cape Colony to teach their own language in schools, and he funded Irish nationalists, on the condition that Ireland maintain a presence in the English Parliament. In fact, that was more or less his view on every British colony, past and present, that they should be governed locally but also represented in and administered by England. Cecil Rhodes was a proponent of the one world government, but in his case, England and Anglo-Saxons had to be the ones in charge. In a few of his earlier wills, not his final will, which established the scholarship fund, Rhodes set aside some money to establish a secret society, much like the Freemasons, whose goal would be to turn just about the entire world into one vast system of British colonies, including all of Africa and South America, the Middle East, the Pacific Islands, all the valuable land in East Asia, and on top of all that, the recovery of the United States, turning it into a Commonwealth nation, subservient to England, much like Canada was before 1931. Even in that final will, the reason the USA got over half the original annual scholarships is because Rhodes hoped they would breed a class of Anglophile philosopher kings who would get America to rejoin the British Empire. Those early wills that call for a secret society have led some historians to believe that Rhodes actually created one before his death, and that it eventually morphed into the Round Table Societies that were established in 1909, 7 years after his death. The connections are pretty easy to make, actually. In the first place, the purpose of the societies was to forge closer relations between Great Britain and the British Commonwealth. And in fact, they're the reason it's called a Commonwealth instead of an empire today. But more importantly, Lionel Curtis founded both the Round Table Societies and the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which you'll recall is the sister society of the Council on Foreign Relations. Curtis lived in Cape Colony for a time, and was connected to Cecil Rhodes' associates. And so between that and everything else I've covered in these conspiracy corners, that's enough to draw a line from today's trilateral power brokers straight to the Freemasons and the Illuminati of the 18th century. As to where else that line leads, well, that'll be the subject of many a conspiracy corner to come. Personal thoughts. From the very first moment when one tribe of humans imposed its will upon another, human civilization has hosted a debate between centralized power and localized power. Which is better? One large central government with direct control over every province, or a dozen small governments which only control a single fiefdom each? Both alternatives have some very good arguments in their favor. A centralized government can impose a monopoly on force. This way, its component parts have to settle things peacefully, and therefore won't break everything in the process of fighting over it. On the other hand, a large repressive government with a monopoly on force is that much harder to resist. A local government operates on a scale that's easy to understand, and reflects the community it governs far better than a larger government could. On the other hand, if that community happens to be bigoted and violent, and here's a quick hint, every human tribe started out as bigoted and violent, then the best way to stop the hatred and violence is through the imposition of a higher authority. A central government provides safety and stability, but only for those about whom it cares, and the largest of governments cannot care for individuals. A local government is responsive and adaptable, but it can't accomplish much on its own, especially in poor communities, and it needs protection from its neighbors and competitors. Now, this is probably my American bias shining through, but I can only figure that the best solution is a compromise between both levels, between every level, actually. Local, county, state, federal, and international. In the United States, the federal government has significant power that supersedes the states, but the states also have significant power over dozens of areas the federal government doesn't touch, along with a lot of leeway in how to spend money from federal programs. Sure, there's a lot of disparity between states, but there are a lot of different cultures too. You have to grant a lot of leeway in a nation that's twice as big and has 3/5 the population of, say, the European Union. And in a more centralized state like China, you see a hell of a lot of people fall through the cracks because the central bureaucracy cannot focus on every province at once. But like I said, I'm biased. Same as everybody else. Thanks for joining me again, Conspiracy Corner, and I hope I'll see you soon.